Hi everyone, hope you're having a good week. This is like the first time in forever that I'm recording this in the middle of the daytime because my house is empty and quiet. I'm normally recording this at like 12 o'clock at night or something, so maybe I look a bit less tired today, who knows? Anyway, I hope you're having a good week. This week's Sedra is Vayakhel Pekudei, so double Sedra. And again, the main focus is the Mishkan. So now we're up to the actual building stage. We've got all the donations in, they're actually putting everything together and building it. And, it's like the final stages of your IKEA project. You've got all the deliveries and you've unpacked all the boxes, and now it's like literally hammer and nails putting everything together. So there's one particular item that I want to focus on this week, which is the Aron. So the Aron, it contained the luchos, and it was a really integral part of the whole Mishkan, and later on in the Beis Hamikdash as well. It features in loads of stories in the Tanakh as well. And on top of the Aron, there are these two little angels called cherubim, or cherubs in English, and they're little angels and they've got wings and everything. And in this week's Hedra, we're told that they face each other. They're looking directly at each other. And the Gemara explains that actually these were miraculous. They could change position depending on what was going on with the Jewish people. So at good times, the two angels, cherubim, would be looking directly at each other. And at bad times, when there was like bad stuff going on with the Jewish people, they would be facing away from each other. And it was supposed to be kind of reflective of our circumstances and our relationships. And it's interesting because when the Babylonians came into the first Beis Hamikdash to destroy it during the Churban, the Gemara says that the two cherubim weren't facing away from each other, they were actually hugging each other, which is strange because I think this is a terrible time for the Jewish people. It's a really bad thing going on. Why are they looking at each other? Why aren't they looking away? And so the Gemara goes on to explain that it's them hugging goodbye to each other. It's their final goodbye. And it's kind of Hashem's way of telling us, we're about to go on a long journey. We're going to be apart for a while and it's very sad. And we're hugging goodbye, but it's not forever. And I will miss you and we'll be back together again soon. And I think often in our day-to-day relationships, it's similar. Sometimes we're only expressive of our feelings towards other people, even the close people in our lives, at times when things are really hard. You have like a friend who's going away for a long time, you'll do a big hug goodbye, or someone's going through something, they've lost somebody, or they've lost their job, or they're not well. So those times, it's obvious. You reach out and you talk about things and you have like a deep conversation, not just a superficial one. But at other times in between, even our very close relationships, may be spouses, children, good friends, family, it's often just very superficial. How often when you say to somebody, how are you, which, is how most conversations start, do you actually wait to hear the response, like, actually, how are they? Or do you just carry on and launch into whatever you are actually calling them about? So sometimes it's difficult to actually make the time for, those more in-depth relationships just on a regular day-to-day basis, not through extreme times, but just, as part of your regular catch-up with people, like actually asking them how they are. So the cherubim, they had the faces of children, which I think is really interesting because if you think about it, for a child, these two cherubim, they're looking directly at each other. For a child, that's really normal. If you've got two children, they can just stare at each other in the face without any sense of discomfort. They're very happy to just stare because they're, they're young and inquisitive and they're exploring. And it's fine to just stare at people in the face. As an adult, it's a bit weird. You don't really do that. You don't really look at people in that way. Even people you're close to, you feel obliged to be talking about something. You don't often just actually look at people. But sometimes, if you're not really looking, you kind of miss the nuances. So maybe this is part of the message of the cherubim. Sometimes if you're not really looking at people, you might not notice the new worry lines or the sleepy eyes, or that the twinkle in their eyes gone missing. Sometimes, if you're just kind of focused on talking about whatever you're talking about, or, you're just rushing past in the playground or wherever it is that this conversation is taking place, you miss the details Or sometimes we do see them, we do notice the red eyes, but we kind of look away or avert our gaze. We feel a bit uncomfortable. We don't want to intrude. We don't want the other person to feel embarrassed. So we pretend that we haven't noticed. We don't say anything. We don't acknowledge it. But maybe sometimes the other person wants you to notice it. They want somebody to actually say, like, is everything okay? And, you know, do you want to talk to me? Do you have anything, you know, what's going on? Maybe the cherubim aren't facing away from each other because of the hard times. Maybe the hard times are because they're facing away from each other. Maybe that's another message that this week's parsha is trying to teach us. Sometimes for the person who's actually struggling, it's really hard to actually verbalize it, to say, you know, I'm having a hard time. It's hard to admit that to somebody else, but maybe they're just waiting for somebody to come and check in with them, to say to them, are you having a hard time? Are you struggling? Is there something going on? Do you want to talk about it? And all they actually need is somebody to see them and to really hear them. You don't even need to respond necessarily. You don't need to fix the problem. Sometimes people just need somebody to listen and to just hear them out, for, you know, that they can just express themselves in a comfortable place with someone that they feel close enough to do that with. So let's this week have a look around us and just think, you know, who can I reach out to? Sometimes somebody just needs a friendly face and a polite inquiry and a listening ear, and somebody who's just got a bit of time on their hands to just see them and hear them out. Have a very good week and very good Shabbos.